Welcome to WordPress. Today I just wanted to take you on a tour so you can see where the different components are. WordPress is a really easy system to work with. It's a content management system is what it's called. What it allows you to do is, here's my actual site up here. What WordPress allows you to do is have all of this stuff formatted for you, essentially. Thus the content management system. So if I go and add a new post, there are all these rules within this theme that tell it where to go. So for example, you can see my recent posts here. It resizes the thumbnail images to be seen like that. And then you can see some more posts featured here. And then I can have some categories. All of that is automated for me since it is a content management system. I have another site that I'm going to show you and use as an example. This one is less blog heavy and it's more of a business layout. So you can see the same thing. She will have those same series of rules that are applied to her site. So every time she posts something new, it will be based on those series of rules. I'm going to go back to the dashboard and I'm going to go and just take you through what all this stuff is. For one, the dashboard just shows you the information you have on your site. Here I can see the statistics as far as how many people have visited my site. This is part of Jetpack, and as well as my top posts. You can also see how many posts you have, how many pages you have. You can see some news from WordPress, and then this download statistics is here because I have a download plugin that I used. If you click this little triangle here, you can see all of the options up here, and I can take some of these away or add them to the screen options. If you go to Jetpack, what this does is it allows you to configure your site. So for example, you can configure your sharing. What that means is if I click on one of my posts, like this one for example, if you look at the bottom, there are these little sharing icons here. Here's this little more. That is configured with Jetpack. So you can see I can just drag and drop and rearrange them in this little spot here. I can choose icon only, icon and text, official buttons, whatever you feel like. And then just make sure you say save the changes. I also recommend putting in your little Twitter tag so that way if someone retweets one of your articles, then it links to your information. You'll notice that jumped me to settings when I went to Jetpack. A lot of these things are linked to settings. Akismet is another thing that you're going to have to do. That's something that keeps you from getting a bunch of junk and spam entered to your sites, for example, spam comments on your site. If I go to posts, you can see here are the posts that I've written. So in order from most recent to the oldest ones. You can filter through these. So for example, if I want to just see my photography and editing articles, I can just click that and filter. I'm going to go ahead and pick all categories. You can also search for posts. So if you're trying to find something, maybe to edit something, that's on there. If you go to media, this is where all your pictures are housed. So you can have basically any of the pictures that are from your site are stored in here. What's nice about this is if you've loaded an image once, for example, let's say I wanted to reuse this font picture, you can use it in a post multiple times since it's already loaded to your site. It kind of saves space on the server. And then here you can go to pages. These are the pages of my site. I have an About Me page, obviously, a contact, and a resources. If I go to the About Me page, let's say I want to edit something, I literally click edit. You'll notice I can actually change the link up here if I want. And there's a visual mode here, which you'll notice this visual mode will look different than your actual site. That's because the rules, basically your theme, you have CSS code written, which is a type of code that tells where the colors, what colors to be where, what font color to use, how wide your content area should be used. Those are applied to your actual blog itself. But visual mode allows you just to see the text and the spacing in the images. So you can see this is kind of some of the stuff. This is the content of my site. If you go to text, and this is honestly what I usually do, you can see here's your text. This is a link with this little href code line here. And there's also all this stuff up here. You can do more stuff. So if you want to link something, you literally click link. You can link it to existing content, or you can type in your own URL. You can do that in visual as well. You'll see that same link or unlink, a few different things and options there. What's nice is you can actually click View Page, and it gives you a little preview if you're doing some changes, so you can see how this is what mine looks like on my site. And then below, I actually have some extra code that I wrote to put like this little torn paper background and then make this 2 columns here. You'll see this little edit show up. That's because I'm logged into my site. Don't worry, obviously that will go away when you are working on, when you're not logged into your site. I'm going to go back here. Anything you do, you can hit update afterwards. You'll notice I have this little SEO option here. That's purely because I have a plugin called Yoast, and I can type in stuff here to help out with my search engine optimization, my SEO. I didn't really worry that much about the SEO here. I could play with it, but I just haven't had time. So those are my pages. You can obviously add a new page by clicking Add New here or Add New here. Here's where you can see comments. So this will show your most recent comments, and this is just a weird little, once again, I'm just going to trash that. Sometimes you get these weird little ping back comments when you write a post, so that's all that is related to. You can go ahead and see all of this stuff here. This contact is related to a widget I put in, and so is the downloads. I'll talk about that in a minute, as I'll talk about MailPoet. You'll see that I have Genesis on mine. That is because I am using the Genesis framework. I really like it. The reason I like it is it has some kind of cool options. So for example, if I make a new page, it has options to pick a full page spread or a page with a column. I kind of like having that flexibility. There's quite a few things just built in with Genesis that make it easier to update and do changes to your site in the future. Without going into detailed technical coding skills, I just like the Genesis framework. Here you can go to Appearance, and you'll see this is actually my theme. You'll notice that this is the preview of the theme, and obviously this is my actual website. And just click on the top here. You'll notice this compared to this is quite different. I wrote a post about that not long ago. I heavily edited this theme, so it is quite a bit different. I changed quite a bit on it, but you can see that the structure of the theme as well. P.S. Choosing a theme, that article there talks about kind of how I decided to use this theme and some of the changes I made. So you can see how this is active. When you use Genesis, it's just sitting in the background, and then this is called a child theme, meaning all of my colors and styles and banner borders and things are on this theme, and the Genesis framework just helps run some of the content and some of the information and where some of the more structural pieces go. The next important part, if you go to Customize, and if you are doing a theme, this is important. You can see here, you can see here there's this header image. You can upload a header image to your site. Now, I actually uploaded a transparent header image because I coded a special background here. I wanted to have my own really wide header image, and then it resizes for different screens. So I actually cheated and put in a transparent image that fills this. The only reason I did that was because that allows this to be clickable. So someone clicks on my header, it brings you back to the home page. Normally what you would be doing when you're uploading a header image is something like this website, where her header image, she has this background here and then the logo section here. Those are loaded in her dashboard, and I can actually show you that. Oops. Hit Customize. So you can see here how she has her logo loaded to that header image. And then there's a background image for this top here, so that's where that comes into play. A little easier to see on her site. Once again, I kind of did some weird cheater coding on that just to make it linkable. So I honestly didn't do much in the customize section of mine just because I wrote my own code behind it. But for those of you doing your own site, you probably will do some more of the appearance in this customize section. Primarily, once again, for adding things like your logo and some backgrounds. The next thing that's pretty important, obviously, is menus. That's your navigation menus. You can see I have a couple. This is the secondary navigation. This is what feeds this down here. So these little category navigation sections. A lot of times you'll just have text at the bottom. So for example, on the Sharon Wonder's site, you can see here's her secondary navigation that's based on categories. And you might not have a secondary navigation, or your secondary navigation could be pages to your site. It just depends. What's kind of cool about WordPress is you can actually nest these. So it's kind of cool. I'm not going to do that because it's going to do really weird stuff to my site, but that's what it does. If I go to my primary navigation, I can hit select, and you can see here's this home, resources, about, contact, and shop. And I just remembered, actually, this is my secondary navigation up here. These little previews are actually controlled by a widget thing. This is actually not a navigation menu. Sorry about that. Misspoke there. But you can see here's my secondary navigation, which is a fairly traditional way to do a secondary navigation. What's cool about this is it does resize. If you bring it in, you can see that it's mobily responsive. These are called dash icons. And that's part of the code that I wrote for the site. And you can see, by the way, you'll notice here where my header resizes based on if your tablet size or phone size are bigger. And you can play with that when you're doing your own site just to see what happens. It's kind of a nice little thing to check out and pay attention to. So those are my menus. Like I said, I have two. If I ever added a page later, you can see how I can easily put it here. You'll notice that I have this shop page as a custom link. I'm just going to drop this down. I put my Etsy site in here, and then what's really important is because this is not within my website, I clicked this little box to open it in a new window. Since they're going to a different website, it's important to have it open in a new window. I also have some special features here, this navigation label. So navigation label is just what it says, the label. This CSS classes, this is that code again that makes it look a certain way. That is how I made these hovers. Do you see how I get these images that change as I hover over it? I added a class to each of these little navigation pieces so I could do some special things to it. That's kind of advanced. If you're watching this tutorial, that probably means nothing to you, but that's how your web developer is making those special rollovers and navigations. It's just a way to target, hey, when a person hovers over this home navigation, do this. It's just a way to kind of isolate these individual navigation pieces. Okay, so that's my menus. If you go to header, you'll see that same drops you into that same customize section that you saw before. Same with the background, it can allow you to do the background image. This simple responsive slider is actually something I don't use anymore. On my old blog, what I did is I actually uploaded each individual image, but I kind of got sick of that. So I made, on this blog, I'm using the Genesis responsive slider. What that does is it automatically pulls my featured images into this slideshow here. So it's just easier because I'm just too lazy to constantly put these in. So I'm actually not using this anymore. I should probably clean it out, but I haven't. Okay. Under this same section, if you go to the editor, this is where you can see your code. This is my style sheet, and this is all the gibberish that a web developer uses to change things on your site. So for example, you can see on an image hover, it's showing you just where the margins are. Or you can see the color of the font if you hover over, sorry, not an image. If you hover over a link, so A:hover is a link, so you can see that if I hover over a link, that is the color code it will be So that's what this style sheet is. If you don't know CSS, please, please, please don't mess with this. One little colon, backslash, dot, etc. can mess up your entire site. But that's where what this thing is. If you are new to CSS or you're kind of a learner and you're curious, you can scroll down here and you can see here are my media queries, meaning this is what allows the site to change based on different screen widths. So basically for a tablet or a phone and things like that. You can hit Command or Control F to do a find. So for example, if you're looking for something in a header, you can do that and you can actually go through and look for anything with that tag. Kind of cool little feature there. I use that quite a bit when I'm doing developing. By the way, in your editor are also your theme functions. This is important. If you're fairly newbie, you still can sometimes do these theme functions. So for example, I put this custom gravatar in. What that gravatar does is if someone comments on an article, you can see it down here. So here's that little leaf. That's a little custom gravatar instead of being like this little mystery man thing. And I have a post on that as well. Okay, so we've made it through most of your panel. I know it's a lot of information, but we still have more. In the same appearance panel is actually one of your most important areas, and that is widgets. What widgets are, honestly, is what makes WordPress awesome. I'm actually going to go to plugins because plugins and widgets are kind of the same. So if I go to plugins, what plugins are little bundles of code. So Akismet is a little bundle of code that has been written that you can use on your site so that you can keep spam off of your site. This thumbnail rebuild, this is a plug-in that allows you to rebuild. Let's say you redo your whole theme for your site. You can rebuild all of the image sizes. So if the image sizes on your new blog are a different size, which for example on this blog they were, the image width was a little bigger, so I could rebuild all of these thumbnails to match the new design. Conditional widgets allows you to display certain things on certain pages, thus the term conditional. Contact form 7 is where you can see this contact thing here. It allows you to have a contact form on your site. So on my site here, on my contact page, this right here is a plugin that I used to make that contact form possible. Delightful downloads is what I use for downloads. I have a few places on my site where you can download files, and that's why that's there. Frizzly is really cool. Frizzly is this little guy, and it'll take me a second to get here. But if you go to one of my articles, you'll notice that when I hover, I have these little share icons. I can click on this and opt to share this to Facebook. I'm not going to do that, but that's what those little hover things are, is Frizzly. By the way, that little pin is something that I installed personally on my own computer. That's why it does that. So Frizzly is a really cool plugin. Genesis eNews is just a way for people to subscribe to your site easily. Once again, that's why I like Genesis. It has a few built-in things like the slideshow, like the subscription stuff that just makes it easy. The image widget is literally an image widget. On the side here you can see how I have an image. I did this with an image widget, so it's just a way to easily add an image to your site. And then you can see Mail Poet newsletters. That's how my subscriptions are used. And then I have Page Navi slider. What that is just helps you on the bottom of the pages down here. You can see, oh, it's not going to be on there. You'll see it here, like if I go to a category page. If I go to like design, if you go down here, see how you can see additional pages? That's what that is. That's actually built in on WordPress. I think this is another one that's left over from my old, yeah, it is, because it's not activated. This is left over from my old theme. So if you don't have Genesis, this Page Navi slider is pretty cool, but it is built into Genesis. Related posts is one that I use for literally related posts. If you click on an article at the bottom, you can see a series of related posts. You can see you can edit them. That edit related post is just there once again because I am in edit mode. It is kind of cool though. You can click this and actually drag and drop different things. So it's kind of nice. All right, WordPress database migrate, that is something I use to move sites. When I develop sites, I do it on my local testing server, and then I move it to the live server. So that's just an application I personally use. So if you're a developer, use something like this. And then there's my Yoast right here. So this Yoast is what allows, that's once again that SEO plugin, and I highly recommend that for your site. It's free and it's pretty cool. So those are those plugins. Now that I've showed you that giant list of plugins and your brain hurts, I'm going to show you more stuff. I'm going to go to the widgets, and the widgets are where stuff is contained. So for example, my primary sidebar, this is the sidebar on my website. So if you look up here, you can see this information here. This is my little About Me profile. You can see how I can pick a gravatar, meaning that's just my little face here, and then I can align it to the left. I put in some custom text, and then you can see how it links to the About Me page. So someone clicks here, they can click there, hit read more. And what I did is, do you notice how that little About Me thing disappears on the About Me page? Because that makes sense. That's where this conditional widgets comes into play. Because I put conditional widgets in, I am allowed I am able to hit enable page logic and hide the spot on the about page. So pretty sweet. You can also hide it on mobile and things like that, which is kind of nice. Simple social icons, that's this stuff right here, my little social icons. And then you can pick the colors. Notice how you can bring that up. By the way, you'll notice there's text that you can put here, and I have it open links in a new window once again. And there's more. You can just fill in whatever web addresses you want. It will add links anywhere you have links displayed. And to add these widgets, you literally just drag them in. So I can just drag or drop these pieces in here. This is an image widget that I was talking about, so I literally just dragged in an image widget. Let's say I wanted to put another piece of art. I could select an image and then put it in here, put a title on it, and go from there. I'm going to hit delete because I don't want to do that. And then once again, here's an image widget. Here's the image widget I already put in. Here you can see the title, recent article. I have it linked to the listing on my Etsy shop. And once again, I have it open in a new window because it's going somewhere else. This is the trickier part. This is the subscription section, this Genesis eNews subscribe. You will not be able to do this until you put MailPoet, until you plug that in. Genesis works with MailPoet to use your subscriptions. There's other ways to have subscribers. There's MailChimp. There's things like that. I like MailPoet because it's free and because you can actually edit your subscribers right within the site. You can see how in this subscribe box, I want to have the people who fill this in, have them added to my blog subscribers list. I want it to show their first and last name. Here's the text displayed for the confirmation email, and then I have it open the confirmation in the same window. You can see my input text that's there, and I have the button say submit. Here's how you can see it in my actual blog. Oh, P.S. I don't have it on the about page. That's because I just didn't want too much stuff in this sidebar since there's not that much space. Okay, so here's my subscribe. So you can see here's the first name, last name, email. Here's where that is here. First name, last name, email, and submit. And you can see how I did some custom colors to make it match the rest of my site. I did that once again in CSS in the code on my site. Widget control on, I did hide it on the about page just because I already had a lot of stuff in the sidebar and I didn't want my sidebar to be longer than the content on my page. It's the only reason I hid it there. Next, popular posts. That's another plugin, WordPress most popular. So this just shows the 5 most popular posts right there. So you can see posts that people are looking at. Okay. Secondary sidebar I'm not using, but it's there. So if you had one, you can tell it what to put in there. Here's the add above header. By the way, this is part of my theme. I purchased this theme from Restored 316, so this home featured and home welcome, these widget areas are part of the theme. Most themes will have widget areas like this. This particular theme has a lot of them. That's why I bought it. It was $50 and it saved me some programming, so it was worth it. Here you can see this home featured. So this is this section here. If I go to my home page, come on, my internet's being slow, sorry. Here's this home featured. So you can see in my home featured I have this responsive slider. I could give it a title, but I didn't want to do that. So I just literally dragged that into place. Next, my home welcome. This is my welcome text. It's this welcome text that you see here. And then right here, I have those same Simply Social icons, except on the home page they're part of this welcome box instead of obviously being in a sidebar, since I don't have a sidebar on this page. I also added this little image. I did that once again just in the code, the CSS code of my site, to have that little background detail. Hopefully I haven't lost you. It's a long video, so thanks for holding through. Okay. So here's my middle left. Once again, just showing you how you can go through these widgets. This is part of Genesis again, so what's nice about this is you can show your featured posts. So here's that featured post. So I literally just dragged in to this middle left. I dragged in this Genesis featured page. Sorry, not featured page. I did Genesis featured post. By the way, you can actually click instead of dragging it. I'm just used to dragging it because that's what you did for a long time. Here's this home middle left. Once again, home middle left. And you can see how I set the information here. I said to show the title. I said to show a feature image. This is part of the code. You'll actually find these image sizes in your functions.php file. I have changed these on themes before, but I was happy with the size of this, so I didn't want to go and change it. So show a featured image, and then you can see other options, like I could show more posts by this category. I do have this read more link because I do have it only show the first 550 characters of the post. Middle right is my recent posts. So this is what enables me to show the 5 most recent posts. And you can see how they have thumbnails shown with each. Once again, every theme is going to be different. This call to action is that same subscribe thing. It's just in my home page, it is on the middle instead of on the sidebar. Once again, I just filled in the text the same. Okay, here's my all of my other stuff. I've got this footer. This is what these featured posts, this is what is feeding this down in here. So you can see how this footer 1, the footer is literally divided into 6 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can see here how this first footer section has my home and DIY category. I just have it say home here just for space reasons, but then you can see how it has an image, footer widget image, show a featured image, and those display here. Once again, that's part of my theme, but one of the reasons I picked it is because I liked the structural layout of this, and I did write an article about that, just looking at the structure when you are deciding which theme to use. These are your widgets. This appearance widget section is where you control where content is, what you want in your sidebar. Do you want a search bar, for example? I don't have a search bar in my sidebar because I have one in my navigation. But you can drag a search bar into your sidebar. You literally can just take this search bar and I could drag it over. Now, I can't drag it there, so this is where I could move this down and click primary sidebar. I can drag it, it's just hard. It's awkward because of the spacing here. Okay. Widgets. Available widgets, once again, based on your plugins that you've used. So my WordPress most popular, if you want to have some most popular posts, use this WordPress most popular plugin. If you want to add a new plugin, you can type add new and type the name of the plugin and hit enter. Users are the people who are allowed to edit your site. You can see, here's me. This is kind of nice if you have a site with a couple different authors. You can have multiple different people, and you can actually have it assign your name to the post. Under settings, this is the next thing that's really important. If I go to General, you can see how I have my site. I have the tagline for my site. I have the site URL. I have all of this different information. The date format, I want it to be shown like this. I want the time format to look like this. That's all that information that you can see. Notice I have it in the Denver time zone. Under writing, you can see how I have default post is uncategorized. And then honestly, don't mess with much of this stuff because, well, if you're listening to this video, you probably shouldn't be playing with the writing section, because that's a little more, you need to know a little bit more about coding. I will say that the reading is something you can play with. This, you'll see how it says blog pages shows at most 10 posts. So that's just if you have like a list of blog articles, for example, like on these category things. If I click design, you'll notice this has 10 posts on here. This is actually a little long. If I wanted to change that, I could say, oh, you know what? Just show 6 posts at a time. You'll notice I have it say a summary. I'm going to hit Save Changes. And now if I refresh this, come on, you can see that it's only 6 instead of 10. It's a little more user-friendly, and then people can, you'll see now there's just more navigation pages. So that is nice. Once again, in the reading, that's where you can change your number of posts. Discussion is where you have all your comment options. I don't usually mess with these too much. The one thing I do mess with is here's my little custom gravatar. On a lot of sites you just see that little mystery person. I like to make a custom icon for my site. Requires a little coding skills to do that, but it's not too tricky. Down here is your media, and this is just showing you just some information about your file sizes. Permalinks is just how you want your links to display. I like my links, my post titles. So for example, this article here has the date and the title name. So once again, you can see how it shows the date and the title name. So this is just how you want it to show. It could just have the post name in the top. It's completely up to you, but that's what this does. It's kind of a nice little option. Related posts, once again, that's a plugin. You won't get that unless you actually add that plugin here. But this is where you can say, oh, I want it to show 6 related posts. That was the default. I figured sounds good to me, so I just left it that way. Frizzly, another one that's really popular. That's the one I talked about where when you hover, you can see these little image hovers. If you're in Frizzly, you can just pick the default theme, but if you want to make your own theme, you can add a new theme, and you can actually load your own images. I made mine 80 pixels by 80 pixels, so if you want to make your own custom hovers like this, 80 by 80 pixels is a good size. You literally just load the image to each of these. So you load the image you want for your Pinterest image, load the image you want for your Facebook image, and then in the Frizzly settings, you can see there's this button settings, and sorry, I forget where it is sometimes. There's all this stuff here, like what is it going to pull if you share it to Pinterest and things like that. There we go. In hover, so when you hover over the image, you'll notice I said only do it on images that are at least 200 pixels high and 300 pixels wide, and then here's where I picked botanical. The default theme is just the built-in standard Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter buttons that you see. So I really like Frizzly. It's really a cool application, and there's a lot of stuff you can do to it, and it's really not hard. If you can make your own 80 pixel by 80 pixel custom image in Photoshop, it's pretty easy. Okay, here's where you get to the tricky stuff. If you want to make a contact form, I use Contact Form 7 for my plugin. Gravity Forms is really good. If you want fancy options like little buttons they can click and you're doing a lot of forms, use Gravity. Since I just have a simple contact form, all I'm using Contact Form 7 because it's easy. Clever, I know. Contact Form 1, I just used the default one they had. And you can see how I just have your name, your email, creative services you're interested in, so forth. What you can do is if you want to add like a telephone number, you can hit required field, I want a telephone number, hit insert tag, and it'll add a little telephone number piece there. That's how these forms work. If you go to my pages, so here's this little short code. So if I want this form to appear in my site, I literally just copy this form. I go to my page. I go to Contact Me. And all I have to do is paste that little short code in there. It can be a little tricky to set up some of these forms, but it really is pretty easy if you play with it. It's not too hard to do. Just know that on this contact form, once again, if you want to make a new form, once again, you hit Add New. And you can pick a language. So if you're speaking French or whatever, I'll type example. You'll notice that it has a default. So this is kind of nice because this is pretty common things to use. Most people are just going to need the default. But if you want, once again, if you want to add something like a telephone number or maybe their website, you can hit required field. You probably don't want it as a required field. You can put default value. You can say website, use this text as a placeholder, and hit insert tag. And now that form will have a little spot for someone to insert their website. So that's what that does. I'm not going to save it because I don't need it. Okay. Next is downloads. Talked about, well, I guess I didn't talk about this. On my site, I have different downloads. I'll actually show you a page that I have on this. For example, I have a post called Using a Photoshop Template that I did recently. I'm going to go to Edit. And you can see here my post is in visual mode. And if you go to here, let's view this page. So view the post. Do you see how there's this Photoshop cover template download button here? I'll click Edit and it'll swing me back. Oh, I'm just gonna hit the back button. Okay. That, if you go to text mode, you can actually see here's this little short code here, like so. This little Photoshop cover template is a short code. It works just like the contact form. So for example, if I wanted to add another download, I could say, oh, I want to put my nitrogen cycle download here. And I could hit, by the way, I could hit text nitrogen cycle. Insert. Boom. Now I have the nitrogen cycle download in my site. Obviously, I don't want to put the nitrogen cycle download in here, so I'm not going to do that. But that's all you do to add a download. It is just a shortcut, a code piece like this. You can do it in visual as well. So right here, if you were in visual mode, you can hit this same add download, hit insert, and it'll put it in there. And then the dinosaur insert would show there. To add a download, so obviously you need to just make the download first. I'm going backwards, but people tend to want to add it in the post. But you have to go to the download page first. So you hit add new. You can make a title. You can upload the file, select it from wherever it is on your desktop, and then you hit OK and hit publish. I will tell you that if it's really big, it'll tell you. It'll say, hey, this file is too big, sorry. So just be aware that that can be an issue. I've showed you the bulk of the site. I have showed you all of the different settings that you can find. The last thing I want to show you is MailPoet. Once this is done thinking, while that thinks, I'll bring you back to this page. Once again, you can see this client has this testimonials plugin, which is a pretty cool plugin, by the way, testimonials rotator. You can see if you go to her plugins page, of course the internet's going to be slow on this one too. Okay, you can see here are all of her things. This A3 social sidebar is another plugin. That's what this little guy here is. So she just has a special for her social media. We just thought for her site it would be better to do that. And then, yeah, okay. Let's go to MailPoet. Newsletters. Try on hers too, since, all right, why not? Here we go. Okay, so here are my newsletters. You can see that I have one that's published. I just switched to MailPoet because I did, when I redid my blog, I changed how my newsletters were subscribed. So I apologize for those of you who do subscribe to my blog, all of 8 people. If you got an extra post, it's because I switched my how I do this, so I apologize. What you can do is if you go to subscribers, you can see my list of subscribers here. With the subscribers, you can go to edit lists. You are probably, when you sign up for MailPoet, it's going to say my first list. You can actually hit edit list and title it here. Notice it says the list created automatically on install of MailPoet. I'm going to say the subscribers to my blog. There we go, update list. What's nice about this is you can have a couple different subscription options. So maybe down the road, if I just want to post art news, if I actually start making more art and do shows again, I could have a separate list for people to subscribe to there. Now you can see here under newsletters, I'll go to this one. This is a newsletter I made it, so I actually hit create a new email, but I'm going to actually hit edit. Okay. So you can see how here it just shows you this code. Here's this newsletter : total or newsletter : post title. So if you want each post to show the post title, that's what you do. And then I have it set to when there's new content, once a day at 1:00 p.m. And I have it in an automatic newsletter. So you can change this. You can say when someone subscribes, when a new WordPress user is added to your site. When someone subscribes to the list is good if you want to do some sort of welcome automated email. If you go to next steps, you can see how I edited this. So you can see here, I put under images, I loaded an image, I put my logo here, and then under content, I dragged in this little automatic latest content. Now if I did this here, it would actually put 2 automatic latest content things in here. But what you can see is it can show you posts or pages. I'm going to hit X so this doesn't do that. I'll show you the settings on this. I just don't want to mess up my newsletter too much. So if I go to edit, you can see how this is posts and it only shows 1 post. If you want, you can have it also show categories, and there's a lot of other options here. I'm going to hit done. And then I dragged another image down here. I put a little just border bottom image. And then this is just by default, it will have the unsubscribe, which is kind of nice because, you've all accidentally subscribed to things and gotten sick of it. So it's important to have that as an option down there for people. I can hit save changes and go back to my newsletters. And I may have accidentally triggered this to send another one, possibly. Oh, it says paused. Oh, save and reactivate. There we go. Now what's important is that who this is going out to you want to make sure they match. So this went to my blog subscribers, and then under my widgets, it's really important on your sidebar here where this says subscribe, it's really important to make sure you have blog subscribers selected. So I'm going to go back into this one. So for example, here she has, this is this welcome mat, meaning when someone subscribes, this is who it goes to. So we can go ahead and hit edit. And when someone subscribes to the list, it's an automatic newsletter and it sends immediately. So let's save and reactivate. And then we're going to go to her widgets, and we want to check and make sure that this is what's going to happen. If we go to her little stay connected here, you can see we want to pick which male poet list we want it to go to. We need to make sure we click this feng shui and design tips list here, and then we want to hit save. So once again, you want to make sure whatever newsletter you have set up, so this wasn't clicked here. So we want to make sure that that male poet list links to whatever subscription thing you have set up. I'll go here as well. She has this on her site. You can see how she has this little extra submit thing here and then the newsletter section here. So you want to go to the same widget and make sure we say yes. Make sure when people subscribe, this is the list that they go to. We're going to hit save. And now we can go back to Male Poet. If you go to subscribers, you can see she has a list of subscribers. And this list is, the list name is right here. Right now we have only the author on this, so she probably imported this previous list. Now let's say you did something like this and you want to add some people to a list. Okay, so she probably imported this list from a previous site. I'm going to click these people and I'm going to add to the list feng shui plus design on purpose tips. I'm going to hit apply. And now they're added. These same people, once again, had probably, she either imported these or maybe they went to her site, but because she didn't have that little box checked on that widget, it didn't tell them what list to put their name on. So once again, when you go to those plugins, under widgets, if you go to your little subscription, wherever your subscription is, make sure you have this list that you want them to be applied to checked. So if we go back to my site, we can see the same thing. If I go to Male Poet and I go to subscribers, you can see how these people are on my blog subscribers list. That same group of people, if I go to my appearance under widgets, I have it in 2 spots, so I have to check it. Here's my subscribe box. I have to have blog subscribers checked. I have to tell Male Poet what list to add them to when you do these forms. And then once again, then when you go and you make your newsletters, and once again, a newsletter can be just tricky because this is actually a blog subscription. But when you do your newsletter, you'll notice that this newsletter goes out to my blog subscribers. So this client, her site literally went live like 3 days ago. So here's her welcome newsletter. She would probably want to make a new newsletter that would be her post, an automatic newsletter, for example, when there's content, once a day, you can pick a time for it to post, and she could do the same, type it in, newsletter, and then have it say post title. I am assuming that you probably want those people, you probably want that on there. Oops. Now right now, do you see how there's only one person on her feng shui list? That's because I forgot to hit save when I added her other people. Save/update. Oops. I'm just going to wait a second. I'm just going to hit save changes. So you can see how this shows some of her automatic content. I'm going to let her play with that later. I'm going to go back to MailPoet, the dashboard. Notice that, see how that's a draft. I'm going to go back to her subscribers. So I don't know why I've been having issues with that. I'm just going to refresh. If it does something weird, just refresh your screen. It's the magic way to fix things. Oh, here we go. So they are on. I think it said 1 on the status. It said 1 because these are unconfirmed. Now, the problem with these unconfirmed ones is that when these people, if these people went through her site and did this, they probably are unconfirmed because they didn't get that email triggered just because she didn't have a list selected. If they're unconfirmed, but you know they're confirmed, go to edit and hit subscribed and hit save. Now, if you go back to your newsletters and you go to this and you hit edit, do you see how now she has 2 people? It will not send them a newsletter until they are confirmed. So this will only go out to your confirmed people. The key thing, once again, with MailPoet is when you are doing the subscription through MailPoet, for one, it can throw people because you're used to having to go to a secondary website with something like MailChimp. Make sure on MailPoet, when you have subscribers, if you have a list, make sure whatever that list name is matches the list on your plugin under appearance. Under widgets, it is a plugin, but it's put in your widget area. Once again, make sure that you have that list picked. So whatever list you want them subscribed to, make sure this is checked. If you don't check it or you change the name, it's going to create problems for you and people won't get those emails. Once again as well, if you go back to your subscribers, so I imported some subscribers to my site, know that you can edit that list. So you can go back to subscribers. You can edit that list. So for example, if this client knows these say unconfirmed, if she knows they are confirmed subscribers, she can go in and edit those. You can bulk select things as well. You can have them confirm unconfirmed subscribers. You can bulk manage your lists, which is important if you moved a blog, you're doing something different and you're managing hundreds or thousands of people. If you're in the thousands, you're probably using MailPoet, but if you have a smaller blog, then that's a good option. Once again, MailPoet, it's a pretty neat application once you figure out how to use it. I just wanted to do a final goodbye, if you will. I know it was a very long post, but I really hope it was helpful for you. Like I said, you can look at the dashboard. You can kind of see this overview here. Your whole sidebar here will help you edit things like posts or add pages or do things to your media library so you can see all the images that you've uploaded in here. And then once again, if you do want to change the appearance, this widget section is really helpful. If you have a home page on your site within your theme, which you probably do, this is what feeds the content. This is what feeds your sidebar. So make sure you go through that. Make sure you play with some plugins. Look at some things that are recommended. I do have a blog post that contains the same video at Botanical Amy. I'll have a list of these plugins that I use most frequently, the ones that I like a lot that you can look at. Enjoy, good luck with WordPress, and if you found this helpful, please like my video and share it so others can find it too.